Hello all, Rick here. The mobile emitter itself was a revolutionary device for the Doctor, and originated from the 29th century. However, that device is at least 300 years out of date by the setting of Starfleet Academy, and on top of this, it ended up in the hands of the Federation in the 24th century. Despite it being a Temporal Prime Directive violation, the Doctor was allowed to keep it, and Starfleet clearly researched and sought to emulate it, with other mobile emitters being present by 2399, albeit for far less advanced holo programs. So I thought I'd look into what lore we have around the notion of a holographic lifeform and how one could exist without such a device, based on what we have seen. The most obvious solution is that holographic emitters are everywhere by this time, and we have seen this being implemented as early as Voyager's time, with attempts to do this to the vessel itself, as well as the successful implementation on Jupiter Station, the Prometheus, the civilian La Sirena, and the Lamar-class Voyager A. By the 32nd century, it could be that discrete holoprojectors are a part of any new build, shuttlecraft, starship, building, and so on. The next option is that there is still a mobile emitter present. It's just now internal to the hologram, like a core that projects outwards. This would have the benefit of protecting the emitter against damage, something that was hazardous in the past. So while the emitter being hidden is a possibility, there is also a holo emitter in plain view. By the 32nd century, the COM badge has evolved into the TRICOM badge, and folded in many other functions, with almost 800 years more development behind it. Some tricorder functions, pad functions, and a personal transporter are now all small enough to be encapsulated in the small badge. When it comes to accessing the menus of the pad and tricorder functions, these are found in holographic interfaces that are projected from the badge. So the badge clearly has a projector built in, and could be the new source of the Doctor's program. Now, one appearance of the Doctor we can cover is his appearance in Prodigy, where he still wears the mobile emitter in 2384. However, when on board the USS Voyager A, he is able to transport and materialise all around the vessel, as like the Prometheus. It has emitters everywhere. One bit of confusion, whether due to oversight or some tech behind the scenes we're not privy to, is that the emitter occasionally disappears along with his form when deactivated, suggesting this might be a holographic display too and not actually there, or it has some sort of transporter failsafe to beam it somewhere if he's deactivated to preserve him. I'm not going to put too much stock in this, however, as I'm still not sold that it wasn't a mistake. One of the most advanced forms of holography that we see was in Deep Space Nine's Shadowplay. This saw a village elder named Rurigan, who had founded an entire settlement based on the Yadaran society he had lost from a single holo projector. This single device was able to create an entire village, albeit with limited range that was shrinking due to age. This projector did not even need line of sight or full coverage in the same way as Federation holodecks, so perhaps the Federation has been able to replicate this sort of device. A holo projector might simply need to be nearby to form a hologram. Another advanced form is the isomorphic projection, which is similar to hologram tech but primarily seen in the more advanced Delta Quadrant areas. Isomorphic projections could convey taste and experiences when used as communications devices, and independent isomorphs could experience a wider range of sensation. Similar to the Yadaran projector, advanced enough isomorphic projections did not require line-of-sight projectors to establish themselves. One option is far more intriguing though. What if, by this era, it's possible to create self-sustaining holograms? We have seen a precedent as with the naturally occurring photonic beings encountered by Voyager, such as the Grendel and the Photonics who ended up embroiled in the Chaotica holodeck novels. Both of these were energy beings who lived in a photonic state, creatures of light who existed before the presence of a holodeck. Whatever their natural state is, whether a layer of subspace or pocket realm they dwell in, they are stable energy patterns of their own. While they manifested in holodecks in their appearances, with time and development it would not be too far-fetched to assume that it was possible to stabilise their forms in real space-time too. So quite simply, it could be that an artificial method of replicating this has been achieved, and that it was implemented into the EMH's program. A slightly different alternative to this idea could be that the technology has developed to such a level that the very software coding itself is able to permanently manifest some form of sustained presence, conveying some permanence via the holomatrix's own existence. Sort of like, once the holoprogram is activated through a standard emitter, its own matrix takes over the role of projection as a built-in function, so long as it has power. And yes, this borders on the incredulous when it comes to holotech and unlocks so many applications or potential creations, but also we have arches that combine transporter and replicator tech to clothe and restyle people's appearances. Local transporters that can function in less than a second and beam based on little more than a person's intended destination. And Warp 9.99 is considered slow by this time. A recurring message from Trek has been that any sufficiently advanced tech is indistinguishable from magic, and I expect to see some of this from an era over a millennia ahead of what we're working with today. Which leads me to the other ubiquitous tech of the 3000s onwards, programmable matter. Now to be clear, I don't think the EMH Doctor himself is constructed of programmable matter, but from what we have seen, the matter is self-replicating and can be stored in a very compact state. It's used practically everywhere, and I would not be surprised that some form of the emitter or programmable matter is woven throughout the physical presence of the Doctor, reinforcing things that are needed to keep him present. Of course, we have the newest photonic beings, the Casquians, who were created by organic life within a temporally accelerated pocket realm. After all of their creators died out, they are now the remaining photonic lifeforms and have been engineering their own holograms like Sam, giving her a physical device made from programmable matter that I assume is her effective data core and projector. So, are there any more options that I have not considered? I like the idea of a self-sustained holoprogram, as I find it more interesting because of how advanced you'd have to be tech-wise to do it. Perhaps it's not as outlandish as I thought before beginning this topic, as there are plenty of photonic lifeforms that can manage it under certain conditions. Thanks for watching this breakdown on methods a hologram could use to become more real. Until the next one, thanks again, and goodbye.